with the intention of seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So I decided this one night I prayed 2 rak'ah and I made dua and I said, just, Ya Allah, just please help me to have clarity in Islam. Please give me this wisdom to understand your faith and show me if this is the right way for me. So I started reading the Quran again. I started, the way I got most of my knowledge would be from books, and then I'd sit on YouTube and I'd watch so many lectures, hours and hours of lectures. And at this time, I was still Sunni, because back from the time when I was with my fiancé, I met a few other Muslims. They were friends of his, and I'd mentioned Shia Islam to them, and their response was, don't learn about the Shias. They're disgusting. They're kafir. You know, they do this, they do that. You know, they put me off. So I wasn't even considering it. But this one day kind of, and I see it as a miracle now, I just sitting on YouTube watching lectures, I came across this one lecture, and from the start I noticed it was quite different from other lectures I'd been watching, because, you know, people were shouting salawat, and at the time I didn't know what salawat was and why they were doing it. And I quickly realised that actually this was a Shia lecture that I was watching. And part of me was just like, maybe I shouldn't be watching this. Maybe I should just switch it off. But out of kind of sheer curiosity, I decided to give it a chance, and I just sat and watched it. And the speaker was Dr. Sayyid, and the video I was watching was discussing the Shia view on the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting. I was just expecting it to be a joke, really, and a just massive insult. But just the way he spoke was with such eloquence and dignity and honour as well. I liked the fact that he was doing academic discussion, but he wasn't cursing anyone. He wasn't, you know, calling the wives in any kind of derogatory names. It was all very respectful, and I appreciated that. And I just couldn't help but just, like, listen to these arguments and think, they actually make sense. I can see where he's coming from. So, but kind of part of me didn't want to believe it, because again, it was this fear. I'd been taught that the Sahaba and the wives of the Prophets, you know, you cannot criticize them at all. Like, any slight criticism, that means that you're a disbeliever in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even though I did believe it, I didn't really want to. And by the end of this lecture, just like, I found it so bizarre, like when they were talking about Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and everyone had started crying, and I was sitting there thinking, why are they all crying? I don't understand. This is really strange. I didn't understand how they could sit there and cry about a man who lived over, you know, 1400 years ago. It was very, very strange. But it was simply because of those arguments that Al-Naqshbandi made. I decided, well, maybe I should watch a few more of his lectures, and I did, alhamdulillah. And I learned so much. All these misconceptions I had about Shia Islam, they just disappeared. There was a reason why the Shias do what they do. They do it because of the Quran, and they do it because of the Sunnah. And following on from that, I learned about the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and I watched the biographies of each member, and I just really did feel a love, and I felt a renewed sense of love for the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then his family as well. And it was just so incredible and so moving to know these people in such an intricate way. And it made sense to me that the Prophet would not leave his ummah without a leader, because this was the same man who would cry at night for his ummah. He was scared for his ummah. He was scared that people were going to go astray. So why would he, and why would Allah himself leave these Muslims alone without a leader? And when I learned about Ghadir, and just knowing about the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam, it is as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared Imam Ali from the very beginning to be the successor of Prophet Muhammad. And I think just a real turning point for me was just learning what happened after the Prophet died. I realised that I'd been lied to about certain things. I realised that, you know, I'd been to Friday prayers before, and the Imam, he was just like saying, oh, you have to hold on to Quran and Sunnah. And when I learned it was actually Quran and Ahlul Bayt, I had a copy of Sahih Muslim in my room, and I rushed over to go and get it, and I checked and I could see it with my own eyes, and I just thought, my God, I can't believe I've been lied to about this. And then kind of even more severely, when I learned about the story of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, you know, I've been told by Sunnis that Fatima had died of grief when her father had died. And when I found out what really happened to Fatima, it broke my heart, and I felt completely disgusted with myself that I'd been lied to and that I allowed people to lie to me. And it broke my heart in so many ways. And I think what resonated me with the story of the attack on Fatima's house was, you know, when her ribs were broken, I just imagined the agony that she would have gone through. You know, I'm a horse rider myself, and there's loads of times that I have fallen off a horse and I've had a bad fall, and I've just lay there on the ground and just thought, what if all my bones are shattered under my body protector? What am I going to do? Or what if my elbow's broken? You know, in this day and age, I could just go to A&E, but Fatima didn't even have that. And just the suffering that she had to go through, the beloved daughter of the Prophet, it really disgusted me that people were covering that up. And I think after that, the story of Imam Hussein alayhi salam touched me as well, because, you know, Sunnis, they just brush over Karbala, they say it's not important. But when I realised that Imam Hussein was attacked and killed by fellow Muslims, it really kind of shook me in a way. I could see that Karbala was doing like a divide between Islam and what wasn't Islam. And when I knew what Imam Hussein alayhi salam was fighting against, I just thought, you know, I have to accept Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Of course I do. I can't turn away and say that I'm not on Imam Hussein alayhi salam's side, because if I do that, I would feel like that I would be betraying him. I feel like I'd be betraying my Prophet, and I would almost feel like I was on Yazid's side in a way. So the time I decided that I was definitely going to follow the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam was actually during last Muharram. I don't know, I just got to a point where I was watching so many lectures, and I got to a point now, I was watching these lectures and it was just touching me so much that I was getting emotional as well. Like, I would be crying at these lectures and they would affect me so much that I would just think about them all day. I think, like, during Muharram, I focused quite a lot on looking at the character of Zainab alayhi salam. And when I learned of her story, I sobbed for about an hour after finishing that lecture because of what she had gone through. I couldn't believe that one human being could face so much, you know, losing your family like that. I just couldn't imagine it. But the thing that really inspired me, because at this time I was still really suffering with my mental health. I was back and forth to the doctors all the time. They kept changing my prescription all the time. I was on various different pills, and some of them were having really bad side effects on me, and it was just a really exhausting process. But the thing that struck me about Zainab alayhi salam was the fact that even on the 11th night of Muharram, she was praying Salatul Layl, not even an obligatory prayer, but she still did it, and she never complained about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during all that time. And it did make me realise that, the evils that had been done to me in my life, that was not Allah, that was mankind. That if anyone is to blame for the things that have happened to me, it was not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has always been there. He's always been on my side, and He's always wanted me to find Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So after that I decided, I've got to be a Shia, and I decided as well, I'm going to adopt an Islamic name.